Turn to the United States and the fallout from last Friday's Supreme Court ruling on abortion. The ruling, of course, struck down Roe versus Wade, and it sent shockwaves across the country. It directly impacts the lives of over 30 million women in America and their access to care. The landmark ruling that has kept abortion legal from coast to coast for 50 years was overturned by the Conservative majority on the 9-member bench, including 3 Trump appointees. Multiple protests were held across the US throughout the weekend, and pride parades, music festivals and other social gatherings saw many attendees expressing criticism of the Supreme Court's move.
We are at this point in this country where established precedent and established laws that have been guiding for 50 years gone overnight, it seems. And I mean, honestly, I am nervous with elections coming up, with like midterms coming up, with a future presidential election coming up, with a conservative majority in the judicial system. You do say, is gay marriage next?
US President Joe Biden called on Americans to vote for Democrats in the upcoming midterm polls, saying if they want to protect abortion rights, he is promising to use any majority that he secures to codify those rights into federal law. But successive Democrats in the White House have made that pledge before and never acted on it. So, back to WION's Susan Tehrani, who is still with us live from New York. And Susan, it was noticeable, certainly here in Washington, D.C. over the weekend, that a number of younger protesters who under normal circumstances you would assume would hew to President Biden's message were actually challenging this idea that the November midterm elections are going to resolve all of this, because they seem to lack confidence in him and some of his predecessors, who, of course, up until now have failed to codify those rights into federal law.
Right. It's interesting because I think this generation has become very informed regarding law. When it comes to issues like abortion, like gay rights, and so on and so forth. And they understand that codifying something like Roe is extremely difficult because, not to go into the historic aspect of it and the legality of it, but Roe really was overturned back in 1992, some of it. And then, there was a case, Planned Parenthood, Casey, that came and sort of, kept some aspects of Roe. So they understand that it's very difficult to codify Roe. So, for example, when President Biden and his party is using something like Roe to say, come make donations right now to the Democratic Party for November, this makes this younger generation extremely angry that, I don't need to give, for example, $15 to President Joe Biden when I know that it's going to be extremely difficult to have some kind of legislation to codify Roe. But that being said, we are going to see more grassroots activism regarding abortion moving towards November. Remember, the overturning of Roe was the product of 50 years of activism on the one hand. And on the other hand, the federal constitution really is a base, is not a ceiling. So to overturn some sort of rules and regulations on a state level is going to be a lot easier than on a federal level. And I think that this generation, the younger generation, as we saw during the weekend, the ones that took to the street and were interviewed, I think they understand that. And I think that this might really set a benchmark right now to perhaps make some changes in many states. We'll wait and see. But the fact that abortion is being sent back to the states might actually play to the favor of the generation to come. So we'll wait and see.
Well, it was certainly notable over the weekend, Susan, that many people were expressing great resentment over the amount of fundraising that was taking place off the back of this Supreme Court decision. Susan Tehrani, live for us today in New York. Thanks very much indeed for that.